apologies for slightly different video quality this morning. I'm recording this on my laptop camera. My external webcam is set up over there for the videos that I'm doing for work. So rather than move that, I'm just going to use the laptop camera. The model is coming on pretty well. You can see that from there. 2 parts there. So that's almost ready to be based up and have the water effects and put the big building on the top of it. So I shall be finishing those videos off by the end of the week, and hopefully we'll have something edited down, and I'll post that on the channel when it's available. I tried to upload a new album for last week's lockdown challenge. That was the sorry, the previous lockdown challenge, which was to repurpose something broken for your hobby. I have just started painting my dragon, so I'm lagging a little bit behind, and it would appear that I can't make an album on the Facebook group without there being any photos in it. So I can't make an empty album. So if you have got something, send it to me and I can make that album straight away. Otherwise, I'll finish painting this next couple of days, and I'll get the album up along with the album from last week, which was to paint something from the Factious Waste universe, Factious Waste world, and I will confess that I haven't done that either. So there isn't currently an album for that. Again, I will try and get that sorted over the weekend, get those albums up. But if you have got photos of stuff that you've done, if you send them to me through Facebook Messenger, or if you send me a message on YouTube, I can let you have my email address, and you can send it to me that way. Then I can create an album with it. I just can't create a blank album. This week I have managed to start getting some paint on the 54mm Technolog figures there. So I've got a number of these guys that I've started doing. You won't see them, but they're not finished, so it's irrelevant whether they're in focus or not. I will post those up on the lockdown challenge, because this week's challenge, related to the stuff that I've been doing, is to paint something that is bigger scale than you would normally paint. So if you're normally a 15mm painter, paint something 28mm. If you're a crazy 6mm painter, paint some 10, paint some 15, paint some 25, paint some 28, paint some 54mm scale stuff. Yeah, it doesn't have to be completely separate. So if you've got, if you normally game in 28mm and you have no 54mm figures or larger things lying around, just paint a big monster or something, but something that is a larger model than your usual. I've got this guy next to me. He's maybe a bit large, so don't feel like tackling him yet, but there we go. Other thing that I have been doing this week, I mentioned last week that I was getting into Jez Goodwin's Wood Elves and was trying to find alternative miniatures and couldn't find any alternatives. A couple of people sent me recommendations and I looked at those and they're good. They're good Wood Elf stand-ins, but they just don't fit with Jez Goodwin style and aesthetic. I try not to have favourite sculptors. I have sculptors that I admire, lots of sculptors that I admire, but I try not to have favourites necessarily. I'm having to face up to the fact that Jez Goodwin might well be a favourite sculptor of mine, because every time I see something and think, oh, I really want to paint that like the original Skaven and the Wood Elves, it just seems like every time that I'm really drawn and really fired up to get something and paint something, it turns out to be a Jez sculpt. So Um, I couldn't find anything that was similar, and I've been looking on a couple of eBay lots to get some more, and they're commanding a reasonable price for what they are. So I figured that I would do some stand-in Jez Goodwin sculpts, and I would use this as an exercise to try and improve my anatomy, and also to try and replicate the style of a particular sculptor. So obviously I start with a really difficult sculptor to pick. I've done 5 of these guys. Apologies on the camera, you won't be able to see them particularly well. What I'm going to do is sculpt these guys up as what we call dollies. So they will have, they've got their trousers and their boots, or their leggings and their boots, and musculature, and I'm going to do heads, and I'm going to do hands, and they've got these weapons in place. Then they will be sent away to the caster. They'll be cast up, and then I will use the castings to put the finished clothing on. I'll chop the arms off some, repose them, chop the heads off some, repose them, or resculpt them. It's a way of generating an assortment of sculpts quicker than if I was sculpting everything from scratch, especially when the basic attire is going to be pretty much the same. So I'm going to do a range of some of these that are war dancery, some of them that are archers, some of them that are spearmen, some of them that are regular champions, so that they're usable for sort of old school wood elf armies. And I had a think after last week. I was considering what to use them for, and saying that I didn't want to do the 28mm Tuatha because there's loads of Dark Age stuff available, but maybe something like the Boar Cult or the Wolver Cult would be more fantasy than is currently available, so maybe I could put them in there. And then I had a thought afterwards that I've done Fey Raids now, I've got Fey Raid stuff out there, and I've got Fey Martial stuff out there. We haven't got much in the way of Fey Walkers. There's the Kier Nanos sculpt with the big antlers that's based on the Sabbath album cover by John Blanche. So he's out there, but that's really as far as I've got with it. And they're Fey who have sort of they've been exiled into the mortal realm, and they've picked up on some of the Tuatha customs and dress sense, and they've kind of reverted and gone a bit feral. So I think they would be a really good match, because they can have that elven kind of property to them, but also have the Celtic and the kind of druidic elements to them. So that's what they'll be. They'll be Fey Walkers, and I will try and put them together in sets so that you can use them as individual characters in a game of the woods, or they'd be a viable option for bolstering existing wood elf armies. You might notice, I just say while I'm passing, you might notice that the weapons on here are metal weapons. Normally I would sculpt the weapons out of a blend of milliput and green stuff, and then sand them and file them into shape. In this case I decided to use weapons that were already existing. These weapons are actually Rathum. They do a set of Viking warrior weapons, and that's where they're from. Now obviously they're from an existing company, so I can't have them in sculpts that I'm selling as they are. So what I've done with these is just use them as a basis, and so this one, for example, with a double-headed axe, I've taken the other side off the other axe head. I've chopped this one in half so that it's a very narrow kind of lockabat axe kind of style thing there, and I've filed the underside so that it's got more of a curve to it. I'm going to curve the half. The swords here, I've filed a kind of leaf blade shape out of the thing. So the spears here, I'm going to extend and modify the shape of the top of the half. I'm going to put a new bracket on here, So they really will be completely unrecognisable from the original pieces once they're finished. But I did that because I wanted something really sturdy to be sanding and filing around. They're quite fine, thin weapons, and I was a bit concerned that if I was trying to grapple with putty, then they would be cracking and breaking. And if I was to do it with plasticard, which is a fairly common way of making them, then they would have to go through a silicon moulding process before they could go into metal. And I want to get, because they're dollies, and so they go into an initial mould to get the dollies back to go into a master mould to then go into a production mould. It's an extra mould added in the process. I didn't want to add extra additional expense having silicon moulds made. I want to go straight into black rubber with these. So that's why I've gone with the metal weapons. They are based on existing weapons, but they will be completely unrecognisable by the time that they are cast. So that's something that I've been doing, and I'm going to be getting on with. We had the first session of the Dreamstone role-playing game of the weekend. Some friends joined me for that, and Chris led us through a session and did a very convincing Zordrak impression. So yeah, well done, thanks to all of those guys. Worked pretty well. There are a few changes that we're going to make to the way that panic affects characters. That's the major change to make, and also slightly tweak the way that opposed rolls work to make it a little bit easier. But it's a very simple basic mechanic, and it seems to be replicating the feel of the episodes fairly well, even with players who weren't familiar with the cartoon series. So that's good. That was working fine. So my task for this week is to finish writing the army handbook, so that I can send that to people and get them to make their own characters for test next weekend. The next 2 weekends we've got more game sessions planned. So hopefully by the end of that we'll have a pretty good idea how it's running. But there's nothing major that I can think of that needs shaking up in it, so that's good. If you are interested in playing some games, I suspect we will still be in lockdown in 2 weeks' time. I suspect we'll still be in lockdown in 3 weeks' time, 4 weeks' time, 5 weeks' time. We may be halfway through lockdown if we're lucky. So yeah, I hope you're all keeping your chins up. But if you would like to be involved in some games, let me know. I can see what we can set up, as we don't need any practical components. We can do it all online. Not ideal, but we can do it all online, and yeah, it's good to get some testing done with people who are fans of the show. If you are, so let me know. So have a good week. If I manage to get the videos for this up and running, I will let you know. If I manage to get the albums up on Facebook, I will let you know. I will put those up there and put a post on the Theo Brown Facebook page. Stay safe, stay well, stay inside, stay doing fun, challenging bits. I'm going to be painting these and sculpting these and modelling bits. Yeah, and join me next week. See you then.